Sex work. It's a growing industry in the United States, and despite being illegal, 15 to 20% of men have engaged in commercial sex. Criminalizing it isn't deterring anyone from participating in the trade. Sex workers are often victims of violence, and because of the current criminalization of the trade, they feel unable to come forward, report incidents to the police, and pursue justice. A 1991 study for the Council of Prostitution Alternatives in Oregon found that 43 of 55 female sex workers interviewed reported being raped an average of 16 times annually by their pimps and 33 times by their clients. These same women also reported being horribly beaten by their pimps an average of 58 times a year. 53 countries across the world have fully decriminalized sex work in order to protect their workers' rights. Yet the US, supposedly one of the most progressive countries in the world, continues to ignore the voices of sex workers across the nation. This issue can no longer be ignored. The United States must step up. Sex work is often overlooked as a practice that is unimportant. Turning a blind eye to sex work and refusing to embrace it has led to exploitation, coercion, and harm. Time and time again, lawmakers continue to ignore the issue.
One of the pet peeves I have as a policymaker is that we keep trying the same thing over and over again and it doesn't work.
When coming forward, sex workers are often charged, fined, or arrested instead of being given the help they need and deserve.
Being criminalized leaves you exposed to mistreatment by the state itself. In many places, you may be coerced into paying a bribe or even into having sex with a police officer to avoid arrest.
Prohibiting the sex industry actually exacerbates every harm that sex workers are vulnerable to. It makes them more vulnerable to violence and sexually transmitted diseases. And by recognizing sex workers as criminals, it further disadvantages them because their criminal records are forever used against them.
Criminalization is a trap. It's hard to get a conventional job when you have a criminal record. Potential employers won't hire you. Assuming you still need money, you'll stay in the more flexible, informal economy. The law forces you to keep selling sex, which is the exact opposite of its intended effect.
Perhaps the most important thing that we can do is to understand that these are victims who, in order to get back on their feet, need to be taken from the criminal justice system.
Countries such as Germany, Italy, Belgium, New Zealand, and Japan recognize the issue of sex worker abuse and have adopted some sort of system that recognizes the legality of sex work. And the results?
The evidence is in on decriminalization as the best model for sex work legislation, and that is across the board on health outcomes, criminalization, migration and border protection, discrimination, etc. So we know that decriminalization works for sex workers, and that's who it needs to work for.
The United States, however, must look towards a new model when drawing up decriminalization legislation.
What we need to think it's models where what we really is at the center is autonomy. How do we make sure that people who decide to do a specific activity does it in a way that it protects her or his autonomy? And so far the regulation of sex work has done nothing on that matter.
The first step in creating this model is accepting the legitimacy of the trade and recognizing that many of the participators are just trying to make a living.
It becomes clear that for most of us, the reason is simple. It's a job. Sex work is my choice of work, and you may find this hard to believe, but I like it.
So the question is, why is it that we think that it's so terrible to do sex work that would make it impossible for someone to exercise her own or his own autonomy in deciding, with the limited options that I have, this is the best that I have. This is the best one that I can within the limited options that I have.
The United States needs to start considering the sex workers themselves. It needs to promote autonomy of the sex worker and eliminate the reliance they have on their pimps through co-ops that are regulated and protected by the law.
My biggest dream is that one day I can stop fighting and have the world simply see me as a person.
As the world embraces sex work, will the United States be left behind?